Welcome to In a World with Real Media. I'm your host, Brad Burrow. In this podcast, we'll dive into the lives of the most successful people in business. We'll learn how they overcame adversity, took advantage of opportunities, and learned from their experiences. Learn from our experts, get inspired, then go live your story. It's In a World with Real Media. Hello and welcome to the In a World with Real Media podcast. Today I'm with Manoa Raine. Manoa is a director, producer that we just recently met actually on a shoot here at Real Media. And we got to talk and he's got a really interesting background. I thought, man, we need to do a podcast together. So here it is. He's a director, producer, used to live in LA, and we're going to talk about some of his experiences there. Now lives in New York. He was here working with a company called RallyOn Media, and we're doing some pretty cool stuff, some new technology yesterday. He's worked with GrubHub, Jason Derulo, Wix.com. Spartan Races. I don't know what that is. You'll have to talk about that. Hexclad, StartEngine.com is just a few of the different places, I'd say brands that he's worked with. So Manoa, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for inviting me, because we literally met yesterday on the shoot, and you just kind of casually mentioned like, oh, we'll have to get you on the podcast or something. And here we are a day later. And that's what I love about this world, is how quick a connection can happen like this.
That's right. And podcasting is really blown up, didn't mean to even go down that trail, but you think about it, man, it's becoming, in some instances, how people get their news.
Yeah. Well, I think I do a lot of social media marketing and stuff as well, and I'm noticing just a huge shift back to authenticity. I think people are so tired of being sold to and seeing ads and branding, and they know, this guy's only going on Jay Leno to promote his next movie or whatever. Yeah. And so a podcast just really gets you to meet the real person behind all of these things and have real conversations again. I think everybody's craving that.
Talk about that a little bit. You said authentic. I think, as a marketer, that's almost more important now for brands than any other thing. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. A very frustrating thing I keep running into is I work with tons of different brands. Like I have like a few main clients, and then those trickle into different brands and all this stuff. And I keep noticing that brands are trying to be something that they're not, and they're trying to mimic other brands and other companies so much that they have no identity. And I keep trying to tell these clients of mine when they come in, like, hey, I understand you want to be professional. I understand you want to come across like you know what you're talking about and you're the best people. But have fun with it. Show people who you are. Show off the team and talk about your struggles and talk about your successes and just like share with the world what's going on. And you'll be seen as real people. And that goes so far, not only in a business relationship, but just as like a team to say, hey, guys, we're going to have fun here. This is work. We're going to work hard, but let's have fun. Let's be authentic to who we are, and let's show that.
I think that's kind of an old school thing that people are overcoming now. It's like you could never show a weakness. You could never show, I struggled with this, those kinds of things. And I think maybe the younger generation coming up is attracted to the transparency of that type of approach, as opposed to, well, we're this and I never make a mistake. Yeah.
No, I mean, I see that all the time. Something I deal with my family and stuff too. I'm like, guys, like, let's open up. Let's talk about this, because we're going through some hard stuff, and everybody goes through it. We need to discuss this with each other and figure out how we can help each other and support each other. But if you don't talk about it, then nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. And I'm really excited to see that the newer generations continually are adding more emotional empathy and just more like emotional awareness in general. I think that's only going to help society as a whole.
Do you find yourself having to talk to brands and marketing managers and people like that saying, you need to open up, you need to have that same conversation you're talking about with your family, with the brand?
Absolutely. And they don't want to do it most of the time. And I get it. There's a company saying, hey, here's something we're struggling with, and here's what we're trying to do to work on it. I get how that could look to people. But I think when you're genuine about it, and you frankly need somebody there who can capture it in a genuine way, I think that's very important. I think when you add that genuineness, it can really help you. And you may have a client who could potentially help you with that. If you're like, hey, I'm trying to build this podcast studio, we're running into this issue where like the lighting's just not right. One of your friends or a past client may go, oh, I know a lighting guy, I know this guy, connect with him, he'll help you out. And it just benefits everybody. But I understand why the brands are scared to showcase that. But as a startup, especially, I think you should be taking people on that journey and showing people the story of the company. Because what's a better story than saying, hey, we struggled and then we overcame it?
Yeah.
Like that's all the best stories in the world is here's a massive obstacle and this person worked their butt off and they overcame it, and that makes everyone feel good.
Talk about films, we're that's a film script.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the arc and
the
story arc and all that.
Yeah, following the story arc of a company, the highs and lows, and I think it's going to be really cool maybe in 10 years, 20 years from now when we have a company that is like the new Apple, like just a new massive company, and their whole thing's been documented on social media.
Yeah.
Like their whole journey and everything is cataloged, and you can really see the evolution of this brand or company or person or whoever. I think that's a really fun and beautiful thing. And on a marketing side, it just attaches your consumer to you. People get really invested in your story. And that's what you want in a customer, ideally. It's someone who like believes in you, trusts in you, likes you, and is willing to support you through the highs and lows and all of that. That's the ideal in my opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So tell me, so you're a director, producer, been doing this, done some pretty cool brands, we talked about them earlier, GrubHub. Why did you get into this as a profession?
Oh man, that is a very long story. The concise thing is I've always been artistic, literally and entrepreneurial. In school in first grade, I was selling marbles and candy for profit. I had a pricing sheet and everything. Eventually, I started selling my art in school. I would do like custom drawings for $5 for people. And so I've always been interested in creating. My family was super supportive in that. Everyone is creative in their own way. My grandma likes to paint. My uncle is a great musician. My mom loves to write. And so they're very supportive. But I originally wanted to be an engineer. And the reason is I grew up in like a small farm town in Virginia. And when you grow up in an environment like that, you sometimes aren't shown all of the options that are available. So you don't even know what is possible. You don't meet anybody who's in the film industry in a farm town in Virginia.
Yeah.
So you don't even think that's a possibility, right? And I was very thankful that my mom, before she had me, had traveled the world. And at some point, as I got a little older, became more self-aware, she said, hey, we're going to go see the world. We didn't have money to travel. She's a teacher, but we went to like New York City, we went to Los Angeles, and she's like, this is how different life could be. Here are the options.
Yeah.
And I still was focused on being an engineer because I loved building things, which kind of now is what I do as a producer. I see it as like building a story. But in high school, my art teacher, Miss Ransom, and still to this day, whenever I mention her, thank you for changing my life. She literally had a moment where she goes, hey, she sit down with me one-on-one. She goes, what are you going to do? You've got 2 more years until you graduate high school. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I think I want to be an engineer. And she had like a grab me by the shoulders moment. And she was like, go to an art school. just try it for a year, maybe 2 years, just see if you like it, but just try going to an art school. And it just so happened that one of the schools she went to that she really liked was James Madison University in Virginia. And my high school just so happened to be going on a field trip there a week from that moment.
Is that right?
And she goes, sign up, just go check it out. Because I was set on going to Virginia Tech for engineering. So I went to JMU, and I genuinely had a moment where the second I got off the bus and I like stepped on the campus, I just knew I wanted to be there. Because I had visited a few other colleges, but I never felt that.
Huh.
And yeah, so I went to film school and or film program, I should say, not an actual film school. And what's so funny is I actually hated it.
Did you really?
Yeah, I'm a person who teaches myself. I watch YouTube videos all day. I take notes, like I'm learning. So what I was learning in college was stuff I felt like I already knew. And my family's not wealthy. I was helping pay for part of my college, and I'm like, well, what am I doing here if I'm not learning new things, if I'm not being challenged? And so, very long story short there, maybe I'm too late for that. I dropped out after my sophomore year. I said, I'm not going back. I am going to figure out how to do this on my own terms. I had a few instances in college where I fought with my professors because I was like, what are we doing here, guys? So I left, and
They don't want to have that conversation.
no, I got my first ever gig in Washington, D.C., and I was filming a doctor's office. I was so excited. First time ever getting paid like hundreds of dollars to go film something. Oh my God. And I told my professor, I said, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it in class these 2 days because I've got paid to go film something in DC. And they said, well, we have a strict policy with attendance, like we're going to have to fail you if you don't make it. And I had like a B+ in that class. Like I was doing all right.
Yeah.
And I said, when's your office hours? And I went to their office and I was furious. And I don't like expressing anger, but I was containing it. But I'm like, dude, your film teacher telling your film student to not go get paid to film.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? What are you doing here if that's not the end goal, you know? And I said, I don't care if you fail me or not. I'm going to go. Like, I got to. This is what I'm here for. And,
so what happened?
he said, all right, that's fine. You know, make sure you do these assignments. Which is crazy that's all it took. Was just like fighting a little bit.
Yeah.
Which was a huge lesson in life of, hey, if you just put a little effort to fight for what you want and what you believe in, you might get it.
Yeah.
So I went to go on that film shoot. It was by far the worst shoot experience I've ever had in my entire life to this day. But it taught me a lot. And to fast forward a little bit, I found a mentor in Richmond, Virginia, who was like about 2 hours away. His name was Kennedy. I was 21 around there at the time. He was 26, traveling the world like every other month, filming the coolest stuff. Going ice climbing, filming weddings, filming like NFL promos. And I basically saw him post a thing on our Facebook page, on the college Facebook page, because he went to JMU as well. And he just said, hey, I need a second shooter for this wedding. I don't care if you have any experience. I just need someone to press record on a camera.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'll do it. Let me do it. And after that experience, I told him, I said, hey, man, I want to learn everything from you. Like, I literally used the words, I'm going to cuss a little bit. I said, I will be your bitch. Like, make me do everything. Just teach me how the heck you did this.
Yeah.
And he said, all right. And he was so open to sharing his business strategies and his pricing strategies and everything. And that's how I kind of got started as like a professional filmmaker. Is he taught me the storytelling and how to film and edit better, taught me the business side. And I also am just super thankful to have run into him.
Do you keep in touch with him still?
Oh, all the time. We hire each other constantly.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So like every maybe 4 or 5 times a year, we have we get like a really big gig, you know, tens of thousands of dollars and stuff. And we're just like, hey man, we always call each other and go, I go, hey, Kennedy, you want to make some money today? And he goes, what do you got for me? And we just start working together again. It's
That's
awesome.
great. I mean, it helps having, like, this is a hard industry. And one of the things I was going to talk to you about today is there are a lot of people that, have this kind of romantic idea about being a director and a film producer and doing all these things, but they don't realize how hard this work it can be. Oh my God. I mean, you go out on shoots sometimes by yourself. Like for years, I was a one man band.
Same.
So I shot it, edited it, sold it, did the business, all of it. And it's very hard work.
It is. It's so demanding. And a lot of companies are starting to realize how valuable it is. But when I started, and I know when you started, it was not as valued. It was just, you're just like the weird creative guys. Guess he's going to film something. We don't know what we're doing with it, It's not until you get to the higher tiers where you're actually like respected and valued, but it's still stressful as heck.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about, Manoa, is just that. So you kind of referenced that a little bit there. Is things have changed. When I started 27 years ago in
and I'm 28, so it's crazy that you have almost my lifetime of experience. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I was self-taught too, by the way. I didn't learn, which I made every mistake. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story.
Please do.
When I first started, so I was a full-time musician. That's how I got started in production, being in recording studios and recording albums and all that stuff. Trying to get signed, did all that stuff. Then realized that I wanted to make money, and I have a degree in marketing, so I paid my way through college playing in bands. But I decided that I wanted to get into video production, so I went and a guy helped me finance an SVHS camera, an Ikegami head on the camera, and 2 SVHS decks, one for A/B roll.
Wow.
So, well, 3 actually. I had two playback. Well, I think I only had 2. I could only do cut edits. So that's
crazy.
And so that's how I went out and I did it out of my basement. But I remember I got hired by Sprint here in town, a big brand here in town. Just started, and I didn't even know how to white balance the camera.
Oh, man.
So I'm like setting up, and I'm just shooting like somebody speaking or something like that. And I'm like, figuring things out.
Yeah.
And I keep hitting the white balance. I'm like, what is that doing? Well, I probably white balanced about 10 times that thing. So I give them the tape and they're like, why did you white balance so much? And I go, oh, was that what I was doing? So
and for those who don't know, if you don't white balance properly, your whole image is messed up.
Oh, I mean, it's white balancing used to be an art in itself. Like if you wanted a real warm look, you'd white balance on blue jeans. Did you ever hear that trick?
But that makes total sense because it balances it out.
Yeah, it takes the blue out, so it's yellow. So I'd carry around an old piece of blue jeans in my camera case. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild. I would have never thought about that because now digitally you just manually adjust it to whatever you want.
Well, like with the red cameras that we're shooting on now, I mean, as long as you have a good basic level, I mean, you can go in and do almost anything to the images because they're shot
it's
in
raw.
Yeah. So it's a whole different world. But that the whole learning thing, having a mentor like you had, that's a big deal because I didn't have that, and I just had to make mistakes. Yeah. And learn from the mistake. I still do.
Yeah.
I still make a lot of mistakes
all the time.
But
still, yeah.
You have to be kind of a learner.
Yes.
I kind of see that too. One thing I was going to say too, I noticed yesterday, I wasn't in with the shoot the whole day. Everybody, we were, Noah and his team were in shooting yesterday, a product, but I liked the way that you were handling everybody on set. And one thing I see directors do, and I've seen this quite a bit, is they come in with an attitude, especially from the West Coast. I see this a lot from the West Coast.
Yeah, same here.
It is my way or the highway. You do what I say. You don't question what I tell you to do, and you do it now. Yeah. And I can tell you another story about that. But what I liked about what you were doing yesterday is that I could tell you wanted everybody to feel good. You wanted there to be a cohesive, hey, let's work together. Hey, good job here. Oh, that looks great. Let's move this just a little bit. That is a skill set that I think is overlooked on a film set. right now.
I completely agree, and thank you for pointing that out, because that is genuinely something I've really tried to work on a lot. Because you've been on sets, I've been on sets where you do have to deal with that type of directors, my way or the highway, and it's, you just feel so invaluable, so disrespected. You just feel like you're a body there to press a button. You don't feel like you're a part of a team, and that just, when you're on a set for sometimes 10, 16, 18 hours a day, you need to feel like you're a part of something,
right,
and that you're appreciated and respected. And something I do before every shoot, and I shouldn't say that because I forgot to say it to this team, but I hope my action showed. I try to tell people, hey guys, I'm the director, yes. That does not mean I have all the best ideas. That doesn't mean that I know everything and that I'm catching all of these different things that you're doing, because there's so much that goes into video production that you have to keep track of. And I try to make people feel like they can come to me and bring stuff up. And I always say, when I give this little speech, if you have an idea of how to do things better, please come talk to me at an appropriate time. Don't stop the shoot, but come talk to me when we're cut or something, and tell me. And if I say no, please make sure I tell you why I'm saying no.
Yeah.
Because then you understand more of the vision, and that's so important, is that people know what the vision is and understand what the expectations are and what you're looking for if you're telling them, hey, this idea isn't going to work.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know, in the West Coast specifically, and just the film industry in general, I just feel like there's a lot of that old school hierarchy of like, you are trained, you do not talk to anyone that is above you unless they talk to you first.
Yeah.
And the whole concept is like, if you do, you're probably not going to work with us again, which means you're probably not going to work with anybody else. And that's horrible.
I agree.
People have great ideas, and they need to be put in a position where they can present them in like a healthy way. Obviously, there's a time and place when you're on a very crazy film set. But I don't know if you've read Creative Inc. I forgot the name of the author, but he is one of the guys who helped found Pixar.
Okay.
And he talks about how he built a creative company and the lessons that they learned. Highly recommend it, even if you're just interested in the film industry, because it's crazy to see the history of them developing all this new technology and working with George Lucas and whatnot. But the point is, a thing they had every month was something called a brain trust. And the brain trust was a meeting that anyone who worked for the company, doesn't matter if you're an animator, a janitor, the secretary, anybody can come to the brain trust and present ideas or give constructive criticism to other people's ideas in like a healthy environment.
Yeah.
And how beautiful is that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because in the book, like, they got great ideas from some, people that others would consider like low-level people in the company. Sometimes they had like the best concepts, and that's what made them such a successful company.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a couple things come to mind when you were saying this. Probably 10 years ago, we were an animation company when we first started, by the way. We did.
Yeah, what a pivot.
Yeah, I mean, we had to, because we mostly were working with sports teams. And so we were doing like game opens and interstitials, all kinds of different things like that. I was the voice of the Miami Heat for 4 years.
No way.
Yeah, so like, black is back. I can do this.
That's
stuff.
awesome, man.
But so the Mets, we did all of the stuff for the Mets for years. The Chiefs, the Royals. I'm trying to think of some of the other teams. A lot of college teams, but that's how we kind of got started. But one of the things, we were doing a TV spot for a company that made the titanium necklaces for baseball players.
Oh, wow.
And so we got hired to do the spots. And I remember we were at spring training, we're shooting spots with Josh Beckett, who was the star pitcher for the Boston Red Sox at the time. Spring training. So we set up and put this big green screen around the mound, and we're shooting him doing this thing where he throws a pitch and then he touches the necklace and it's got titanium and it kind of energizes him, and then he fires this ball in. And I walked up to him. I was directing, and I said, "Hi, Josh. I'm Brad. I'm the director." And without hesitation, he looks at me and says, "You're not going to yell at me today, are you?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding? I want you to have the best day you've ever had."
Yeah.
And I said, "We're going to have fun." And that like took the pressure off of everybody. I mean, I've got him doing things like I've got a camera, like he comes through and the camera's right here and he's looking over the camera and we're holding his foot while he's leaning in. Does it all. Now his agent was a real ass, but
Agents
he was great, man.
are, yeah.
Jabba Chamberlain, back when he was a star. I don't know if you remember him. He was a Yankees pitcher. Same thing with him. And then the other thing I was saying, I spent a week with the guy that runs the directing department for the LA Film School.
Oh, wow.
And I'm wanting to get my chops up to be able to direct features and things like that. So I called him and I said, James Pasternak was his name. I said, "Hey, I've directed a lot of different things, but I'm really wanting to get into directing actors and features." And he goes, "Come spend a week with me."
Wow.
I'm like, "Are you serious?" So I got to spend a week at the LA Film School and literally, sit in on acting classes and all of that. And one of the things that you reminded me of him when you said, "I'm not the smartest guy." And one of the things James said to me was that you don't want to be the smartest guy on the film set. You want to be the director. You want people smarter than you in every department. And,
Exactly.
And then you rely on them to do their jobs, but direct where that's going. And that's so true.
I agree. And same with business in general, right? Like, I was literally just telling, I started dating this girl recently and she's so fascinated about the whole film thing. And I told her, I'm like, my job, my skill set on set is not being the best person. It's knowing how to bring together the best people and how to make them all work together. Because there's a lot of times on shoots that I do where this is the first time this whole crew has ever worked together. Maybe one person knows somebody else on set.
Probably all the time, isn't it? I mean, most of the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, because with my line of work, I travel everywhere around the country to film various companies. So we're hiring local people all the time. And but we're trying to find the great people. But to orchestrate something, a full day film set, and to make that cohesive with a team that's never met before, that's crazy. Yeah. And that's why that like synergy is so important. And I do think that's one of my best skill sets is bringing that synergy in and making them feel comfortable and that this is a team effort and that we're having fun. Because after you do this for so long, sometimes you just show up on a set and you're just like, God, I don't want to do this. Like I'm exhausted. This is going to be a lot. Maybe the client or an actor is kind of being an asshole. Like I'm going to have to deal with all this. I think it's so important to remind the team, like, isn't this awesome that we're getting to do this? That if I told my high school self I was going to be even just on this podcast, I would be like, that's cool as hell. What the heck? Bringing that excitement is crucial. But one thing I love that you said is you just called this guy up and he's like, yeah, come hang out. Let me show you some things. Yeah. And I feel like from what I've seen from people around my age, there's so many people who just don't take that leap. Who's like, oh, I'm going to call this person. I'm going to ask, maybe if he didn't invite you, I'm going to ask if I can come and hang out with them. And that's something that one of my best friends taught me. His name's Will, great VFX artist. But he taught me, you only get in life what you're brave enough to ask for. And the more and more and more I've just asked for things, I've been shocked at what I've been given. Yeah. Like scary sometimes. They're like, oh, you want a big opportunity? Here it is. It doesn't happen all the time, but it starts planting those seeds for things to work out. In this industry, we were talking about struggle earlier. You really have to just go for it because there's a lot of people who want to be doing this. And so it's very oversaturated, but there's not a lot of people who want it so much that they're willing to ask for sometimes ridiculous things, or to make the sacrifices needed in the sacrifice of time and family and friends and everything needed to make this work in the beginning. A lot of people aren't willing to really push themselves to that edge. And my friends, I think, kind of know me as an instigator. Like, I love if someone's like, I think I might want to do this. I like grab them and put them over the edge, and I'm like, all right, here you go. Like, go do it, you know?
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah. Which is something I think everyone should ask themselves if they want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you do not understand the level of sacrifice that is needed initially to be successful with this. I had to miss friends' birthdays, family gatherings, crazy cool vacations my friends were going on. Like, I sacrificed a lot for 4 or 5 years before I got to a point where I can be comfortable and breathe and relax.
Yeah.
And many people aren't willing to go that long. Maybe they'll go a year, maybe they'll go a few years, but a lot of people don't make that extended effort because it's exhausting.
Yeah, it looks like a glamorous business. And there's times when it's really cool. I mean, obviously, you know, some of the things that we get to do, you know, no day is the same, rarely.
You get to meet new people all the time, see new things, go
different places, you know, be in unique situations. You know, all those things happen in this industry. It's really cool, but there's a lot of other things that are really hard.
Yeah.
You know, the hours, you know, just humping gear, you know, around that side.
Yeah, hundreds of pounds of gear a day.
You know, I've been on shoots where by myself, where, you know, like I've gone out, flown, this is back in the day, but flown with probably 4 or 5 cases of gear, put it on an airplane, got to the airport, loaded it all up in a car, drove, set up, shot for 2 days, then came home with all that and did that all by myself.
Yeah, with no break in between. It's just go, 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 go.
And it's like, it's exhausting. But, you know, that was to Napa Valley, by the way, Napa Valley.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was a really cool thing. I mean, a neat experience.
What was that job?
It was for a construction company here in town, or an engineering company called Kiewit. And they would do these events where they would, you know, bring everybody out to a resort, and
amazing.
You know, so we would shoot stuff for them, but I literally did all that by myself. You know, so there's a lot of, you're right, a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work, but there are also a lot of really cool things that can happen too, being around people. And we did a spot for the Chiefs, probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and longer than that, but I directed Trace Atkins for the Open.
So cool.
And that was done right here where you guys were.
Yeah.
And I remember he was so tall. I mean, that guy's like 7 foot tall.
Oh my God.
And so I have pictures of me looking up at him. Okay, Mr. Atkins, I want you to say this line, you know, this kind of thing. But, you know, it's pretty cool. You get to hang out with people like that and do things like that.
Yeah.
You know, we've worked with all kinds of, you know, sports teams, a lot of, you know, different types of sports personalities, the Heat, you know, I get to do stuff for them. And one of the fun voice jobs that I did, because I was doing the voice stuff for them, was when Dwayne Wade was leaving.
Oh, wow.
So Pat Riley asked the guy that runs the Heat Television Network, which is a really good friend of mine, to put together 3 short videos to convince Dwayne Wade to stay.
Oh my gosh, that's such a fun project.
Yeah. So my buddy Ed calls me and he says, Brad, I need you to voice these for me. I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I want you to do it.
Oh my God.
And so I did it. And that ended up being, I was the voice of what Dwayne Wade heard when he was considering staying with the Heat or not.
That's crazy. Can you talk about what was the pitch to get him to stay? Do you remember?
Legacy was one of them, you know, talking about, you know, you've got a legacy, Dwayne. And, you know, the people of Miami love you. You know, that now I'm not doing it as good as I did, but you know, that, and then, you know, they got into one point, I think he was talking about going back to Chicago, actually. the land in Miami is much, worth much more. I mean, it was stuff like that.
So that's like a fun project.
Yeah,
like it wasn't taken super seriously. You got to have fun with.
Well,
like,
it was serious for them.
Sure,
but
yeah.
for me, it's like I get to be the voice that. I mean, nobody else heard that video except for a few people in the production side for the Heat, and then Dwayne Wade.
Gosh, that's awesome? So neat. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just cool stuff like that. We did the Open for the Super Bowl in 2018.
You were telling me about that. What specifically was it?
Well, so we used to be an animation company. I mean, that was all we did. I had 5 full-time animators on staff, which doesn't sound like that much, but in the Midwest, it was more of a big deal. But so I had relationships that I'd built with different sports teams, and a guy that I worked with a lot ran Baylor University's sports production side.
Cool.
So we did all their opens, game opens, all kinds of stuff for him. And he ended up leaving there and went to work for Ross, which actually has a piece of gear that when you watch a football game and it looks like a 3D object sitting on the field.
Yeah. And the overlays that they put on.
But it's tracking. So if the camera moves, it's moving with the field like it's
in
there.
real time.
So it's called augmented reality is kind of the term, VR, AR type thing. Well, he called me and said, hey, we want to add real football players to this. And they use Unreal Engine, a gaming engine. And I'm like, okay. And it turned out that one of my top animators at the time was really into Unreal Engine.
Perfect.
We were building TV spots in Unreal Engine.
That's so crazy. Crazy that a gaming engine, completely unrelated, ends up being one of the best things. Like that's what they use in the Volume now, where they shoot Star Wars and everything. They use Unreal Engine to generate these crazy, beautiful images in real time.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be adding that capability to our a virtual set capability to that with tracking and everything, so the camera moves and the background moves.
I'll come back for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
we need to. Anyway, so he calls me and says, hey, if we get you scans of the players the week of, well, actually less than the week
of, for the Super Bowl.
For the Super Bowl, can you turn them around? We had a motion capture system, so we added motion capture. Can you turn them around and get it back to us so that we can project them on the field for the opening of the Super Bowl? Wow. And I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah, so how are we going to figure this out? We got 1 week? So that would normally be
we
2
tested it.
Months
We tested it. So we learned how to do it. But we literally got the scans of Tom Brady and Nick Foles, that were the 2 starting quarterbacks, like I think it was 4 days before or 5 days before.
Which is not a lot of time, people, if you don't know.
Well, and here's the interesting thing about it. And you can see all this in our YouTube channel. I did a case study on this. So we do all this. We get them ready on Friday night. They're going to have a rehearsal on Saturday. We get them uploaded to Unreal Engine, and the director hadn't seen any of it yet. And he looks at it. And so we're doing like football stuff, and shaking out your legs and stuff like that. Yeah. He goes, they look like they have ants in their pants. And we're like, what? What?
Yeah, it's like, oh, God, the intention.
So we actually well, if we want this to be on the Super Bowl, we got to redo the motion. So we put the motion capture suit on, redid all of the motions, had them ready Saturday morning, and he approved him, and that went on the Super Bowl. So we did 6 players, and we couldn't even tell anybody that we did that.
That's the worst part, right? Because you sign all these NDAs and you work on the coolest stuff, and then can't post it anywhere, can't talk about it.
But it's like a cool little feather in our hat, that we did that. And, that's the kind of things when you're talking about, sometimes you got to just say yes and dive in and do it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's how we've managed to stay around so long, as we say yes. Probably too much, actually.
I have the exact same problem, but I think that's what, like you said, that's what's needed, because you also have to be a little insane. Because how crazy is it that they hit you up, give you these assets a week before they need to be ready for the biggest television event in that year?
Yes.
And you have to just go, well, we've never really done this before, but I think we can do it. So let's try. And so many people probably would have said no to that because of that fear and that uncertainty, and frankly could not be career ending, but like you're in the sports industry at that point. If you guys messed up, that could be game over for like your whole business. But you had that confidence of, I don't know how we're going to figure this out, but we will. We've got this. Yeah. And that it's crazy to me how some of these opportunities come through so last minute, and you just figure out how to pull it off. What other people would consider like impossible. You're like, well, we have to make it possible somehow. We'll find a way. Yeah. And it works most of the time.
I tell you, it was fun though. It's fun seeing, you know, your work in front of that many people. And
I can't imagine.
You know, it was that was something I'll never forget. Honestly, seeing the animations that we had been working on and the movement and all that stuff. There's funny, the motion capture suit. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when we heard that we're going to have to change everything, it's a suit that it used to be a technology you'd have to be in a room like this with the cameras all around, and it would track these little reflective balls that you would wear. Well, now they have suits that have, you know,
it's
your fingers,
built in to the suit,
like an ectoskeleton type thing. Well, that's what we were using. So we were actually doing the movement right in front of the computer as it's capturing. So I called up my buddy and I said, hey, I'm going to send you this quick little video. So I had Carlos, the guy who was doing the animation, put on the suit, and we said, we just want to see what you think about this movement. So Carlos is like this, and he goes like that, and there's fingers, so you see the exoskeleton actually doing that, and we all start laughing.
Oh, I love it.
And apparently Fred, the guy that actually was the director for NBC, saw it and laughed. So we had a little bit of fun with it. But yeah, I mean, that was really fun. Talk about some of the project. I mean, you got, out of all of these, tell me about some of the most fun memories you have working on some of those projects.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Give me a second to think. Well, just like off the top of my head, GrubHub was really cool because it was a very unexpected thing. COVID happened. Yeah. You know, clearly every business suffered, videos and stuff especially, because if everyone's suffering, no one has a budget for marketing and content. But I was working very closely with RallyOn Media, led by Alex and Brian. I've worked with them since before they started the company. Great guys. Random connection that I made that like changed my life again. But they had.
I don't see you as a guy making connections with people very easy.
Yeah, not at all. No, which I appreciate you saying that too. I used to be incredibly shy and nervous and like didn't talk to anybody. As another like just training and practice over and over and over again. And now I love talking to people, but when you're so nervous and scared to be genuine and just open, you can't really connect, you know.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. But GrubHub was really nice because it was just life-saving at the time. Alex and Brian at RallyOn got the opportunity because they made a random video that went viral about delivery drivers and like what their day-to-day life is, and GrubHub saw it and was like, can you make more of these for us? And they're like, sure, why not? Became a huge part of RallyOn's business and my business for a while. And so I got to fly all over the country during COVID and capture very short documentaries, like 3 minutes long, about a restaurant and the history behind it. And what was really nice through COVID is there was a lot of incentives for small businesses and also for, you know, supporting your community and culture. So I was getting to go meet people, a lot of them who were immigrants who moved here to escape sometimes a horrible life and just wanted an opportunity and found a way to make the best out of it. And built a restaurant. They were happy, and it was just a really beautiful experience to get to talk to these people. And I was a one-man army the whole time. Brian produced it, so he just got the things together, told me where to go. We had like a rough general
Would you
script.
shoot it and everything?
Yep, I would direct, film, and edit the whole thing.
Really? Wow.
And I was flying sometimes to 5 cities a week. And it was going back to the stress of time.
Wow.
I would literally flying to a city, film, maybe stay the night, and then fly to the next city in the morning, film, maybe fly to the next city, get 5 hours of sleep, go film again, just back to back to back to back to back. But I was getting paid very well, thankfully. And honestly, COVID was very good for my business specifically because of that and a few other opportunities I got. But yeah, I love talking to people. I love meeting new people and interviewing them and capturing their stories. Like when you come from a small farm town in Virginia where frankly most people are exactly the same ideals, same hopes, dreams, whatever, to get to meet new people who have lived a whole different life.
Yeah.
I love learning from that. So that was a beautiful experience. And another one that also happened during COVID was I got connected to Nas Daily, who isn't that big in America, but internationally he has 60 million followers. He was kind of the guy who created the concept of a 1-minute video and got viral on Facebook for being the 1-minute video guy. Like that was what he became known as. And he tells a lot of very interesting stories about different cultures and different societies and like what they're doing to better the world. And a lot of people wanted to learn from him. How do you make these videos? You know, we would love to do this for ourselves. So he started an international like education academy to teach people his whole process. And I was very fortunate to be invited to be one of the first 10 admins of that team and help flesh out the video course that was already kind of prepared.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, and I helped add my notes and figure out how to teach this the best way. And then I was actually asked to lead the development of the photography and social media courses for him. And so through COVID, I got to not only fly around the country filming stuff with GrubHub, but I got to teach international students who in one class, I would have like a 14-year-old student in Malaysia and like a 50-year-old business owner in South Korea who have very different lives, very different understandings of the English language.
Oh, yeah.
But we're all there to learn the same thing. And so that taught me a lot about communication, of like how to communicate to an individual based off of their needs and their understanding, and also how to boil down very abstract concepts like creating something, how to boil that down to a more like formula of if you want an image to invoke sadness, what colors would you use? You'd probably use blue or purple. What type of angle would it be? Maybe you're shooting them from the top down to make them feel small, like help teaching them how to think creatively in a formula base. And that was hugely influential to my skill set and led me to help now consult for a lot of small businesses who are starting to develop a media branch, because pretty much every business should be a media business at this point. And it taught me how to train their team, where I'm like, hey, I'll come in and based off of your wants and needs, I will train them specific skills and how to use their camera, how to use Premiere Pro to edit, how to post and all of that stuff. So that was incredible. But both opportunities that also popped up so randomly and that I was not prepared for. I was 24 at the time. I had no right to be teaching international courses on these things.
Yeah.
But I was like, why the hell not?
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. You know, one of the things. So I noticed yesterday when we were wrapped, you were talking to one of the clients about, hey, I'm going to send you this video. And you're going to be able to stop it and put a note in. I'm assuming it was Frame.io or something like that. Yeah. And explaining to him, I was just kind of listening how you were explaining that to him. Mm-hmm. You know, and to the average layman, they don't understand how Frame.io works.
Yep.
Vimeo has a similar setup now where, you just stop it, click on the screen, make a note about that little part, you know, what can we do about this? And how you explained that to him, I thought, well, you really did a good job of like, kind of getting down to their level, and we could talk high level about something like that, but getting down to their level, like he's an engineer, probably the guy that you were talking to.
Yeah, he doesn't
like,
understand how this new thing works.
Yeah, so you're going to hit this, and you can type in your note here, and then I'll get that note, and
And now I know what thought you had when you had it.
Yes.
And that helps me understand how you're thinking and how you're seeing things. And
but you have a knack for that. I mean, not everybody has the ability to, or the patience.
yeah, there's a lot of patience sometimes, especially in those classes where, again, different understandings of the English language. And I'm like, how can I explain this in a different, more simpler way?
Yeah.
But it's a knack. Most of my skills and what people who have met me recently, they'll be like, oh, you're a natural at this or that or that.
Yeah.
I really try to emphasize, like, I was never a natural at this. It's just practice and training myself. And I truly think most people have the capacity and capability to do this with the same type of training and intentionality that I had. And I always just want to emphasize that, because especially in the creative field, there's so many people, young kids I see, and they're like, I wish I could do this as good as you, or I wish I could be like this person. I'm like, hey, you can. It just, Michelangelo didn't pop out as a baby and paint the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
He was drawing stick figures and, drawing the sun with the little, the squiggly lines for heat. Like, he just practiced and practiced and practiced and eventually got there.
I think one of the biggest things that I see in you is you're a learner.
Huge learner.
And
I love it.
You've got to be in this industry. If you want to be successful, you've got to be willing to learn and listen. I see a lot of the opposite of that in some people in the industry. Like, there's egos involved and stuff that are hindering them.
And hesitancy to change, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember when vertical video became just a standard in like most deliverable packages now for social media. There were so many people in Los Angeles who were like, this is so stupid, I hate it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I get that you don't like it, but that's the future now, at least for the course we're currently on. So just do it. Like, stop complaining about it. That's what's needed. We need to adapt, especially in a field. Yeah, on the phone. Like, everyone can film on their phone now. Like, now videographers have to adapt to that. And I think a lot of people in this industry forget that video specifically is one of the newest art forms that humanity has ever created. We've had writing, we've had music, we've had theater, all this for thousands and thousands of years. Video is like past 100, maybe 120 years. This is brand new, and this is such a technology-based industry, and technology is only getting better, only getting faster. You have to be adapting to this, or you're going to be left in the dust.
That's right. I mean, we're shooting stuff with our Reds now.
Yeah.
Like this, turned sideways.
Crazy, right?
You got a Red camera that's 8K, and you're shooting like this. Like,
yeah,
weird.
You bought like a $80,000 camera to put it vertical for social media.
Yeah, and for a phone.
Yeah, like, how crazy is that? But again, if it's what's needed, if it's what's wanted, go where the market is going.
Yeah.
You're not going to beat the market.
Yeah, right.
Like, it doesn't matter what business
Or go
you're
out of
in.
business.
Yeah. Like, you got two options.
Yeah.
Like, you either try to beat the market and go out of business, or you roll with what your customers and your consumers want from you.
That's right.
That's the only way to survive as a business owner, really.
Yeah. Well, that is true. So we got a couple more minutes here. I want to talk a little bit about RallyOn. Let's give them a little love, since they're the reason you're here. Talk about them a little bit. Tell me a little bit about them, what they do.
Yeah. So I love RallyOn Media. I work with a few different media agencies, but RallyOn I've worked with the longest, and kind of at a higher level than these other agencies as their one of the producers. RallyOn's incredible because it started by Alex and Brian, who had no interest in going into media at first. I believe they were in business or finance school together, and they went on this international trip and started filming videos just for fun and posted them online. And eventually someone found them and was like, hey, we'll pay you to continue filming around your travels and your adventures. And they're like, whoa, that's crazy. This was 10, 15 years ago. That wasn't that common back then.
Yeah.
And so they were just filming their everyday adventures, and that eventually turned into the Nowhere Men, I believe their first business. And that was a Facebook page focusing on really cool New York city-based stories. And they went very viral. They had hundreds of thousands of followers, which 10 years ago, hundreds of thousands was big deal.
Yeah.
Now that's like, the standard, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And eventually they just started getting so much business, so many companies wanted them to tell their stories, that they started RallyOn Media. So RallyOn Media is very much like a story-focused media company, and they also have an equity crowdfunding division for StartEngine.com. So it's kind of separated into two things. There's the equity crowdfunding, which is like if a business wants to get funding to scale and whatnot, but they can't find venture capitalists or angel investors, you could get signed onto the Start Engine platform and promote your business and say, hey, you can get equity in my company. We're looking to do X, Y, and Z.
Great idea.
Great concept, yeah. And so when a client signs on to Start Engine immediately recommends RallyOn Media as, hey, if you need any marketing materials and whatnot, hire RallyOn. So what we do is the second they onboard with RallyOn Media, that gets handed to a producer, which is me, or we have like 5 or 6 other people. And we write the scripts, we film, direct, edit, everything for them, and go through a whole legal process to make sure that like everything we're saying and doing is fine for the investors.
Right.
And then we make these marketing materials, which is why I was here yesterday, was to work with one of those clients who I can't talk about under NDA, but it's incredible because as a producer, we get to work with some really like leading edge companies that no one has ever heard of and that you probably won't hear of for another 5 or 10 years. And we get to be at the forefront of a lot of cool businesses. And what I really like about RallyOn is they have this mentality that we only work with companies that we believe are going to help the future and help others.
Yeah.
I literally remember at one point we found out that a client of ours had done some things we thought were unethical as a team, and the CEOs were like, hey, we're not working with them again. Like, we're going to drop them. We do not support this. And I think I just love that, like that value-based system of like, let's just help people.
Yeah.
And that really helps a lot of your projects not feel so mundane sometimes. My grandma recently was diagnosed with cancer for the 3rd time. She is a fighter. I'm genuinely shocked she is still kicking and still cognizant and everything. And what was crazy is right after I visited her, I was heading back home and I get a call from RallyOn. They said, hey, they didn't know my grandma had cancer. They said, hey, can you produce this project? It's for a new form of cancer treatment that is supposedly 400 times faster than our current methods and 40% less collateral damage to the body. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I get to help.
Amazing.
I get to potentially help these people help the world. Like, of course, I would love to do that. And you know, you hear numbers like that and you're like, that's insane. But you see the teams behind it, like world leaders in so many fields that came together for this cancer treatment. And it's like, wow, this could be a very real thing. And then I feel like I've been rambling, but a lot of great projects with RallyOn. Highly recommend looking into them for just any production needs. We work all over the country. We tell a lot of different stories and also work on high-end commercial productions. We've done national commercials for GrubHub and a number of other companies.
Yeah.
We've done international commercials for other companies. I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but if you go on their website, you'll see their reel. I edited that reel, and I'm very proud of it. So go check it out. You'll get a great overview of what RallyOn does.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, we really appreciate you. We're getting close to an hour here, but
oh, wow.
I appreciate you coming. I hope you had a good experience yesterday. We sure enjoyed having you here.
No, it was great, man. This team, I'm sorry to interrupt, but genuinely, this team was so relaxed and easy to work with. And so kind the entire time.
Yeah.
You know, like I felt like if I asked them of anything, it was just like, yeah, of course. And you didn't get, there's no of that attitude,
Yeah.
you know, that we were talking about earlier. So this has been great, and I'm genuinely shocked with how much cool stuff you have here. You know, like this is one very small part of this whole operation. It's amazing.
We have, all of this has come because I can't say no. Mm-hmm. You know, oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, why not?
Let's figure out how we can do that. You know, but we've kind of added, onto our whole, offering.
Yeah.
Everything from the higher end down to podcasting. So, and everything in between. So we do say yes a lot, but I think in the Midwest, you have to do that a lot more than being really segmented as just one part of production.
Yeah.
You could probably make a living just being a grip company or, a camera company or producers or whatever on the coast. But in the Midwest, you have to kind of be able to do a lot of different things. So that's what we've
Well,
we've had
to
to
your
do.
benefit, that's why you get to work on Super Bowl commercials and get to do a bunch of cool things, is because of how versatile you and your team are. And I personally prefer that for my own life, is to just have that versatility, and because of the places it takes you to, like the 2-year documentary you guys have been working on and stuff, like crazy stuff. But when you're so versatile as a creative company, that shows how skillful everyone is.
Yeah. A lot of fun too. All right. So the last thing before we go, I always have everybody do the movie voice. So you have to do the.
Let me get my voice ready.
Yeah. Go ahead and take a drink there, because I want you to say, "In a world with real media," like that.
All right. Here we go.
So.
In a world with real media.
All right, man. You might want to get an agent.
Hey, maybe, next time you see me, I'll change careers and everything. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thanks
Brad.
for being on. I was, after talking to you yesterday, I was like, we got to just do this. So,
I'm so glad we did. This was a great conversation.
I appreciate it. So be sure to subscribe, like us, share the podcast with your friends, play it at dinner parties, whatever you need to do. And, I'm good with
This
all
is
that.
great dinner party material. Put on some smooth jazz and our beautiful voices and call it a day.
In a world.
In a world.
So we appreciate you guys checking us out, and we'll see you the next time. In a World of Real Media, Manoa Raine.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
This has been In a World with Real Media. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to subscribe on iTunes and follow Real Media on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn so you never miss an episode.